The signal from the stars. It began with a pattern. Nothing more than an anomaly in the background noise that most would have dismissed. But Dr. Maya Chen wasn't most people. For 12 years, she had dedicated her life to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, spending countless nights alone at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, scanning the cosmos for signs that humanity wasn't alone. On a rain-soaked Tuesday evening, her patience was rewarded. "Alex, I need you to see this," Maya called to her research assistant, her voice barely audible over the drumming of raindrops on the observatory dome. Alexander Petrov looked up from his tablet, his expression shifting from mild annoyance to curiosity when he saw the intensity in Maya's eyes. "What is it? Another pulsar?" "No." Maya's fingers danced across her keyboard, transferring the data to the main display. "This signal has structure. Look at the pattern. It repeats, but with variations. It's not random, and it's not natural." Alex stared at the screen, his initial skepticism fading. "Where's it coming from?" "HD 85,512, a K-type star about 36 light-years away." Maya couldn't keep the excitement from her voice. "And the signal strength is consistent. Whatever's transmitting this, they want to be heard." Within 24 hours, observatories across the planet had confirmed Maya's discovery. The signal was real, unmistakably artificial, and originating from a star system that scientists had long suspected might harbor habitable planets. The world reacted with a mixture of wonder, fear, and skepticism. Religious leaders held emergency conferences. Military officials convened behind closed doors. Scientists worked around the clock to decipher what might be the most important message humanity had ever received. Maya found herself thrust into the spotlight, shuttled between television interviews and government briefings. "We don't know what they're saying yet," she repeated, "but they're definitely saying something." 3 weeks after the discovery, the first breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A 19-year-old mathematics prodigy from Mumbai named Rajan Patel, who noticed that the signal structure matched mathematical principles that transcended language barriers. "They're establishing common ground," Rajan explained during an international video conference. "The first sequences are universal mathematical constants, pi, Euler's number, the golden ratio. Then they build complexity from there." Working with linguists and cryptographers, Rajan developed an algorithm that slowly began to extract meaning from the alien transmission. What emerged was not a greeting but a plea. Maya sat alone in her apartment, reading the preliminary translation for the 5th time. The beings called themselves the Nefari, a civilization orbiting HD 85,512 that had reached technological heights humans could barely comprehend. Yet for all their advancement, they faced extinction. Their star was beginning to destabilize in ways their science hadn't predicted. Within 5 years, solar flares would strip away their planet's atmosphere. Within 7, the surface would be uninhabitable. The Nefari had built evacuation ships, but they could save only a fraction of their population. What made the message extraordinary wasn't just that it sought contact, it was that it asked for help. Why us? The question echoed through meeting rooms at NASA, the European Space Agency, and the United Nations. If they're so advanced, why ask humans for assistance? The answer came as more of the message was decoded. The Nefari had detected Earth's technological growth curve. They believed humans possessed unique creative problem-solving abilities that might see possibilities their own logical minds had missed. More practically, Earth's position and resources made it the only realistic hope for a joint rescue effort. Most startling of all, the Nefari had included detailed schematics, designs for technologies far beyond current human capabilities, but tantalizingly within reach if global resources were pooled. They're offering knowledge in exchange for salvation, Maya explained to the UN Security Council. They believe we can help them, perhaps more than we believe it ourselves. The debate that followed was unlike any in human history. Could humanity trust the message? Was it a trap? Even if genuine, Did Earth have a moral obligation to risk its resources on an alien species? The technical challenges seemed insurmountable. No human vessel had even left the solar system, let alone traveled 36 light-years. As discussions continued, something unexpected happened. The message leaked online. No one knew who released it. Perhaps a junior analyst, perhaps a hacker. But within hours, the Nefari's plea had spread to every corner of the internet. Translated into dozens of languages, it ignited something primal in the human spirit. Outside space agencies worldwide, crowds gathered. Online petitions demanding action garnered millions of signatures. Children sent drawings to government officials, showing Earth and another planet with a rocket flying between them. The simple message: we can help. In Rio de Janeiro, thousands formed a human chain spelling out "and sewer them," large enough to be visible from space. In Beijing, students held a silent vigil. In Cairo, Moscow, and New York, people who disagreed on everything else found common ground in a conviction that humanity must try. Public pressure forced political leaders to the table. Old enemies looked at each other across negotiation rooms and saw, for the first time, not adversaries but potential partners in an endeavor greater than national interest. 8 weeks after the signal's discovery, an unprecedented coalition announced Project Starbridge, a global initiative to develop the technology needed to reach the Nefari homeworld. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Kyoto University, led the theoretical physics team analyzing the alien schematics. What they're proposing, he explained during the project's first press conference, is a form of space-time manipulation that aligns with our most advanced theories. We've been exploring similar concepts, but their approach offers shortcuts we hadn't considered. Nations that had jealously guarded their aerospace secrets now shared knowledge freely. Private companies opened their patents. Universities redirected research. Children emptied piggy banks in symbolic donations. At the newly established Starbridge Command in Geneva, Maya watched the growing army of scientists and engineers with a mixture of hope and disbelief. Theoretical physicists worked alongside rocket engineers, AI specialists alongside material scientists, all united by an impossible deadline and the weight of 2 worlds. The first test of the hybrid human Nefari propulsion theory came 3 months later. A small prototype, no larger than a car, generated 1/10 the power needed for interstellar travel, but enough to prove the concept viable. With each passing week, progress accelerated. Quantum computers specifically designed to solve the equations of space-time distortion came online. New materials capable of withstanding the stresses of near-light travel were synthesized. Global power grids were reconfigured to channel unprecedented energy to the launch facilities being constructed in the remote Australian outback. 6 months into the project, humanity faced its first major setback. A full-scale engine test failed catastrophically, claiming the lives of 3 engineers. For a brief moment, the project faltered. At the memorial service, Maya found herself thrust into a leadership role she'd never sought. Standing before the grieving families and a worldwide audience, she spoke not as a scientist, but as a human being. "They trusted us," she said, her voice steady despite her tears. "Not because we're perfect or powerful, but because they recognized something in us that perhaps we've forgotten in ourselves, our capacity to reach beyond what seems possible." Our fallen colleagues understood that. They gave their lives not just for an alien species, but for the best part of what makes us human. The work continued. Engineers redesigned the propulsion system, incorporating redundancies and safeguards. Politicians who had wavered in their support renewed their commitments. 9 months after the signal's discovery, construction began on the interstellar vessel itself, the Horizon, a ship unlike anything humanity had built before. Assembled in orbit, it combined the most advanced human engineering with concepts derived from the Nefari schematics. As the ship took shape, another team focused on the practical challenges of the mission itself. How would humans communicate with the Nefari upon arrival? What environmental adaptations would be needed? How could a single mission possibly evacuate billions of beings from a doomed planet? The answer emerged from the most comprehensive analysis yet of the Nephari message. They weren't asking humans to physically transport their population. That would be impossible. They were asking for help implementing a revolutionary form of matter-energy conversion technology they had theorized but couldn't stabilize. They need our creativity, explained Dr. Adebayo Okafor, the Nigerian physicist who had made the breakthrough. Their minds work differently than ours. They excel at logical progression but struggle with intuitive leaps. Their equations show a technology that could transport their entire population instantaneously across space, but they're missing a stabilizing factor that their thought patterns can't conceive. 12 months after the signal's discovery, as the horizon neared completion, Maya stood on the observation deck of the orbital construction platform, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her. In her hand, she held a small device, humanity's response to the Nephari, containing both a message of hope and the collective insights of Earth's greatest minds on the stabilization problem. Tomorrow, this device would be installed in the Horizon's communication array. In 2 weeks, a crew of 12 would embark on humanity's first interstellar journey. In approximately 5 years, if all went well, they would reach HD 85,512 and discover whether two vastly different species could achieve together what neither could accomplish alone. As lights flickered across Earth's night side, billions of humans looking up at the stars, Maya whispered the words that had become Project Starbridge's unofficial motto. "We heard you. We're coming." Reaching across the void, Captain Elijah Santos stood on the bridge of the horizon, his dark eyes fixed on the main display where Earth had diminished to a pale blue dot. After 3 weeks of acceleration, they had reached the threshold for the first space-time jump, the moment that would prove whether the Nephari's theories actually worked. "All systems green," reported Flight Engineer Sophia Kim, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Warp field generators at optimal capacity." Elijah nodded, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. A former NASA astronaut with 3 Mars missions to his credit, he had been selected to command this unprecedented journey not just for his technical skills, but for his unflappable calm under pressure. "Commence final countdown," he ordered. "All crew to jump stations." Throughout the ship, 10 other specialists, the most qualified individuals Earth had to offer, secured themselves in reinforced chambers designed to minimize the theoretical biological effects of space-time distortion. Dr. Maya Chen, the only non-military member of the expedition, strapped herself into the seat beside Elijah. As the mission's chief communication specialist and the person who had first detected the Nephari signal, her presence was both practical and symbolic. 30 seconds to jump," announced Sophia. The ship hummed with energy as capacitors charge. 20 seconds. Primary warp field stable. 10 seconds. Maya closed her eyes, whispering a silent prayer to whatever forces might exist beyond human understanding. Jump initiated. There was no dramatic flash of light, no violent lurch, just a momentary sense of existence stretching impossibly thin, as though reality itself had become elastic. When Maya opened her eyes, the stars had changed. "Jump complete," Sophia's voice held carefully restrained excitement. "Position confirmed. We've traveled 3.2 light-years in 0 measurable time." A cheer erupted across the ship's communication system. The technology worked. The impossible had become possible. Over the next month, the Horizon completed 11 more jumps, each carefully calculated to navigate the complex topography of spacetime. Between jumps, the crew conducted repairs, analyzed data, and prepared for the challenges that awaited them at their destination. The journey was not without danger. During the 7th jump, a power fluctuation caused a partial failure in the warp field. The Horizon emerged from the jump with its starboard stabilizers severely damaged and 2 crew members suffering from what the ship's physician, Dr. Fatima Al-Zarani, diagnosed as temporal dissonance, a condition the Nephari had warned might affect biological organisms during imperfect transitions. For 3 days, the mission hung in the balance as repairs were conducted and the injured crew members slowly recovered. Earth, now so distant that communications took over 2 weeks to reach them, could offer only limited guidance. We proceed. Elijah decided after consulting with his officers. We've come too far to turn back now. On day 87 of the mission, the Horizon made its final jump, emerging at the edge of the HD 85,512 system. For the first time, humans gazed upon an alien star and its orbiting worlds with their own eyes. Scanning third planet, reported Science Officer Dr. Chen Wei, his voice tight with concentration. Atmosphere composition matches Neferi specifications. Surface temperatures elevated but within survivable parameters. I'm detecting significant artificial structures across the northern hemisphere. Any response to our approach signal? Maya asked, leaning forward in her chair. Nothing yet, replied communications technician Jamal Washington, broadcasting on all frequencies specified in the Nefari message. Hours passed in tense silence as the Horizon moved deeper into the system. Then, just as they established orbit around the third planet, the ship's communication array chimed. Incoming transmission, Jamal announced, his eyes widening. It's complex. Multiple data streams. Maya rushed to her station, fingers flying across interfaces as she initiated the translation protocols developed on Earth. Slowly, the alien communication resolved into comprehensible patterns. They're acknowledging our arrival, she said, her voice trembling slightly. They're thanking us. What followed was a rapid exchange of information. The Neferi, it seemed, had never been entirely sure their message would be received, let alone that humans would respond. Their gratitude was profound, but so was their urgency. Their star's deterioration had accelerated beyond predictions. They're requesting permission to send representatives to the ship, Maya explained after decoding a particularly complex transmission. They want to meet us face to face before proceeding with the technology exchange. Elijah hesitated only briefly before giving his consent. Within hours, a small Neferi vessel docked with the Horizon. The meeting between species was broadcast to Earth with a 2-week delay. Billions watched as slender, iridescent beings with multiple upper limbs and compound eyes entered the ship's conference room. Their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic, and though they communicated through a device that translated their harmonic language, something in their demeanor conveyed both desperate hope and dignified restraint. We observe you with wonder, the lead Neferi said, its translator rendering the harmonic tones into measured English. You have accomplished what we calculated had only a 12.8% probability of success. Our gratitude exceeds our capacity to express it. Over the next several days, human and Neferi scientists worked side by side, combining the stabilization theories developed on Earth with the matter-energy conversion technology the Neferi had created. Progress came in fits and starts. The two species thought so differently that collaboration itself became a complex problem to solve. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Gabriela Ruiz, the ship's engineering specialist, suggested an approach that neither human theoretical physicists nor Neferi scientists had considered, a hybrid system that used biological neural networks to stabilize the quantum fluctuations in the conversion process. Our brains already solve quantum problems efficiently, she explained. It's how consciousness works. If we integrate a neural interface with the conversion matrix, we could achieve the intuitive adjustments the system needs. The Neferi were initially skeptical, their logical minds struggling with the seemingly paradoxical approach. But as Gabriela's simulations demonstrated increasing stability rates, they embraced the concept with what could only be described as their version of excitement. For 3 intense weeks, the combined team worked to implement and test the hybrid system. When the first full-scale test successfully transported a small unmanned probe across the system instantaneously, both species knew they had their solution. We can begin evacuation preparations within 60 days, the Neferi Council announced. Thanks to your assistance, our entire population and essential cultural artifacts can be transported to our colony world in the Proxima Centauri system. But as plans progressed, Maya noticed something troubling in the Neferi communications, subtle linguistic patterns that suggested they weren't sharing everything. "There's something they're holding back," she confided to Elijah. "Something about their colony world." After careful diplomatic pressure, the truth emerged. The Neferi colony was real, but it was far less developed than they had implied. While physically habitable, it lacked the infrastructure to support their full population. They had concealed this fact out of fear that humans might withdraw their help if they knew the full scope of the challenge. Elijah called an emergency meeting of the ship's senior officers. "They still need our help," he concluded after presenting Maya's findings. "But now they need more than just technical assistance. They need resources, expertise in large-scale infrastructure development." "That goes beyond our mission parameters," objected Security Chief Colonel Sarah Nguyen. "We don't have the authority to commit Earth to that level of involvement." "Then we request that authority," Elijah replied firmly. "We came 36 light years to save a civilization. I don't intend to stop halfway." The debate that followed was heated, but ultimately a consensus emerged. The Horizon transmitted a detailed report to Earth, requesting authorization for an expanded mission. While awaiting a response that would take weeks to arrive, the crew continued working with the Neferi on the transportation technology. As the star's instability increased, causing planetary temperatures to rise dangerously, the urgency of their task became even more apparent. 29 days later, Earth's response arrived. A resounding yes, accompanied by the announcement that a second mission was already being prepared, one carrying agricultural specialists, civil engineers, and other experts who could help the Neferi establish their new home. With Earth's blessing, the final phase of the operation began. The Neferi constructed massive transportation hubs across their planet, while the Horizon crew helped calibrate the neural interfaces that would stabilize the technology. On the day of the first mass transport, Maya stood alongside Elijah in the primary control center, watching as thousands of Neferi families entered the transportation chambers. There was no panic, no disorder, just a solemn procession of beings preparing to leave their ancestral home forever. "Commencing neural interface synchronization," announced Gabriella from her station. Human crew members connected to the system, their trained minds helping to stabilize the quantum fluctuations that had previously been the technology's fatal flaw. When the massive energy field enveloped the first transport hub, Maya held her breath. For one heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the chambers emptied, their occupants successfully transported across space to their new beginning. Over the next month, the entire Nefari population, nearly 4 billion beings, made the transition. The Horizon crew worked in shifts, their minds linked to the system, providing the creative intuition that complemented Nefari logic. As the last transport completed successfully, the Neferi High Council presented humanity with a gift: a comprehensive database containing their entire scientific and cultural knowledge, far beyond what they had shared in their initial message. "You have saved not just our lives but our civilization," the council elder told the human crew. "We offer you partnership among the stars for as long as either of our species shall exist." The Horizon began its journey home 2 weeks later, carrying not just the database, but also 3 Neferi ambassadors who would help establish permanent relations between the species. The return voyage, following now familiar jump coordinates, proceeded without major incidents. 5 years, 7 months, and 18 days after departing Earth, the Horizon returned to the solar system. The world that greeted them had been transformed. The global cooperation necessitated by the Nefari project had created new international institutions. Technologies developed for the mission had revolutionized energy production, manufacturing, and medicine. Perhaps most significantly, the shared purpose had begun to heal ancient divisions between nations and peoples. As the Horizon docked with the orbital station, Maya looked down at the blue marble below. Somewhere in that initial signal, hidden between the mathematical constants And the desperate plea had been something neither humans nor Neferi had anticipated. A catalyst that would forever change both civilizations. "We didn't just save them," she whispered to Elijah as they prepared to disembark. "They saved something in us too." From that day forward, humanity looked to the stars not with fear or conquest in mind, but with the knowledge that the universe contained friends as well as wonders. The interstellar age had begun, not through conflict or competition, but through an outstretched hand across the cosmic darkness. And somewhere, 36 light-years away, the Neferi looked back and remembered the species that had answered when they called.